everybody has pictures of me with wide eyes.
You're getting good at, like, posing.
There you are.
So you're a
Yep. I'll have this.
Test the mics, make sure they're good.
Testing the mic.
Check, check, check.
Hello,
Hello.
sibilance.
Hello.
Live.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you.
I think we still have a couple more minutes for people to drift in. I don't think we're quite at 5:30 just yet.
Sometimes I do things right.
I did. Why not? Epic selfie. Turn around. Yeah.
This finger is the only one that lost eyes and didn't lose the things. I'm getting there. This is the third day.
Just, but my first man.
It's very
Please don't push me over the edge.
let's shake the podium as much as possible.
We don't want to lose clean off the side. Let's get there a little bit right.
There would be something that would happen to me, and I swear I didn't have any wine at lunch.
Still filling up. How many people did you tell?
Okay, it's 5:30. Someone gonna give us a signal that we're starting.
There wasn't. I think the other guy just kind of
Just start ourselves.
Well, but yesterday they introduced us. Yeah, but
I don't know. He didn't get introduced. He didn't get introduced.
Yes. Should we start? We're good to go.
We might not have video, but we're good to go. Taking a picture.
So much for that 7 hours of my life.
Never gonna get that one back.
I'm never gonna get that
doors,
back.
Kristen. I think you're a go.
What?
They closed the doors and they gave you a thumbs up.
Okay. Hello. Lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for coming to Supernatural Creatures on Contemporary Television. Nice. You seem like a nice warm crowd. As you can see, here are all of our Twitter addresses, so feel free to tweet away as we talk if you feel like it. I'm going to start. I'm Kristen Hutchinson, and I'm going to be talking about the portrayal and popularity of werewolves on current TV. So today I want to talk about why werewolves are so popular, and talk about if maybe, werewolves are experiencing a renaissance, and dare I say, maybe they'll even eclipse zombies someday. I think it's unlikely, but I have hope. So I want to talk mostly about what is it about werewolves that are so appealing, and why are they so appealing at this exact moment. So here, a comic by Chris Haley, Werewolf versus Zombie from 2007. And here, he's showing you some of the abilities and attributes that werewolves have that zombies do not. So certainly there is this very strong current fascination with zombies, and it doesn't seem to be abating. The fact that over 16 million people watched the season finale of Walking Dead shows us that the zombies are not really dead yet. Although, TV series about werewolves don't garner similar ratings, there is very much an increase or an interest in werewolves, and I'll talk about a number of shows that are coming up that focus that are existing today that focus just on werewolves. So when we think of werewolves, we conjure up images of hairy, aggressive monsters that roam the forest, tearing apart everything in their wake. And they're often represented as libidinous, quite sexual creatures. They're typically controlled by cycles of the moon. They're shape-shifting, human-animal hybrids. And a lot of these stories and narratives, particularly on contemporary TV, revolving around their efforts to maintain their humanity. So stories about werewolves often tell a story of remorse that they feel for the kinds of deeds that they commit when they've gone all wolfy. So here are some examples of shows that are currently on television or just finished. So the first, Bitten on Space, Teen Wolf on MTV, Being Human on BBC, and there's also the American version, and then Hemlock Grove on Netflix. So we've seen werewolves as part of an ensemble cast in many TV shows for quite a long period of time. I mean, think of, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, True Blood, Ugly Americans, The Gates, the originals, Once Upon a Time, Grimm, even Doctor Who. The Doctor Who werewolf episode is awesome. You should watch it if you haven't seen it. Vampire Diaries, and also Supernatural. So in the last few years, we see a handful of shows that are focusing on werewolves themselves as the main characters, and these 4 shows very much doing that. So what is it about werewolves that draws viewers to these shows? So I'm going to outline today 3 basic reasons of why I think people find werewolves so appealing. So the first is that they're very much symbolic for our yearning to connect with nature. So over 80% of Canadians and Americans currently live in cities. And so it's not surprising that we have this yearning to have some kind of connection with nature and to have more of a relationship with the natural world. So as you can see in the background of all of these images, all of these werewolves are positioned in relationship to nature, in nature, that they're typically transformed into their animal selves in the forest. Bitten telling the story of the only female werewolf in existence, and she's drawn back to her pack due to a series of mysterious deaths. And when the characters turn into wolves, they actually shift camera angles, shift the coloration to make it seem as if you're a wolf in the forest. So we're meant to feel how it is to inhabit the forest as if we become wolves living in our natural environment. And the wolf pack that she returns to luckily has this manor house in the woods, so it makes it easy for them to transform. So Being Human, a show about vampire, werewolf, and ghost living together in a flat in the first iteration of the show in Bristol. And they're all trying to attempt to be as human as possible. So the werewolf George, at first, as you see here, transforms. When he transforms, he decides he's going to cage himself, he's going to take tranquilizers, he's going to try to control his transformations. And over time, he learns to adapt to being a werewolf in the forest. And so the series, we follow his journey to returning to nature, and returning to nature in a way that that no human carnage is going to occur. So lastly, the main character, or almost lastly, the main character on Netflix series Hemlock Grove is Peter Rumenchek, who is a 17-year-old gypsy who also happens to be a werewolf. And he lives in a decrepit trailer in the forest, which again, maintains his connection to nature. He's able to transform without human prying eyes. And also the linkage, between gypsies and werewolves, certainly not a new one. You could go, easily back to the 1941 the film The Wolf Man, that continually makes this connection between gypsies and werewolves. So the perception of the werewolf's special relationship or tie to the forest is actually poked fun at a little bit in Teen Wolf. There's one instance, so Teen Wolf portraying this high school student, Scott McCall, he's struggling with being made into a werewolf, and at one point his helpful sidekick Styles assumes that werewolves must live in layers in the forest. He assumes that, they have this sort of special little dens. And Peter, who is one of the alpha werewolves, begins by leading him to believe that he, lives in some kind of cavern in the forest. But then, he actually says, well, in fact, actually, I have an apartment downtown. So he really, kind of destroys that some of that mythology of werewolves in nature. So despite this banter between Styles and Peter, the werewolves are still shown as exhibiting a special, innate relationship to nature in general and to the forest in particular. So I want to show you actually a couple examples of contemporary art dealing with werewolves. So the first, a work by Australian artist Jasmina Sines from 2004, and then a work by British artist Stuart Pearson Wright. So you can see here, both of these artists also continuing this connection of the werewolf with nature. And Sines representing the correlation between wolfsbane and werewolves. Wolfsbane, a poisonous plant that actually was used in the past to kill predator animals in both Europe and India. And it really, wolfsbane often playing a large part in werewolf mythology. TV shows like Teen Wolf, wolfsbane can kill werewolves. It can do all kinds of magical things. It can cause them to shift. It can even heal them properly if it's used properly. So Wright depicting himself in the self-portrait as a werewolf on the full moon. So the second reason I think that werewolves are so appealing is that they really tell a mortality tale. They tell a tale about a struggle between control and aggression. So werewolves all about transformation, moving from human to animal and back again. So it's not surprising that werewolf narratives on television often portray this struggle between different states. So a struggle between control and aggression, mortality, morality versus immorality, animal versus human, good versus evil, natural versus supernatural. And the opposition of these binaries allows for very compelling narrative dramas. And it also allows us to consider some of those gray areas between those two different states. So werewolves, different from many other supernatural creatures because they're primarily human creatures. And typically they change anywhere from 1 to 3 nights, depending on the full moon. They struggle with how to maintain their humanity in the face of this aggression. And interestingly, in Bitten, Teen Wolf, and Hemlock Grove, their changes are actually no longer tied to the moon. So it becomes this continual struggle of how to maintain their humanity. So here are a couple older images. Lucas Cranach's The Werewolf, a Renaissance image from 1512, and then a work by Maurice Sand, illustration for Légendes rustiques, or the legends of rustic legends from 1858. So lastly, I think there's a renewed fascination with the werewolf in periods of great social change. And I think that we're actually experiencing a moment of great social change. So the difficult and painful transformations of the werewolf reflect our own concerns about the rapidly changing world that we live in. And we see, that this sort of interest in the Gothic, art or literature first emerges in the 19th century. And there's a great predominance of images of werewolves in the 19th century. And these artists or writers were really, expressing a longing for a pre-industrial era. They were in the face of rapid economic, technological, societal changes brought on by the Industrial Revolution. People were nostalgically looking back to ancient Greece, to medieval and Renaissance eras, as they were supposedly, simpler or more enjoyable times, which is really not the case. They definitely were not. But the myth of the werewolf going actually all the way back to ancient Greece, the story of the great god Zeus transforming a man into a wolf as a punishment for killing one of his sons. And not only does this man, whose name was Lycaon, kill one of his sons, he actually tried to feed the son to Zeus. So Zeus was pretty pissed off about this. So he transforms him into a wolf. So here are the beginnings of that werewolf mythology. And so Lucas Cranach, that ancient mythology gets taken up again during the Renaissance, a translation of this ancient mythology into art. And here, showing this werewolf as an actual eater of babies, as you can see there. So the legend, that it depicts of the werewolf, this idea of transforming in relationship to the moon, very widespread in Europe and France. And even up until the 18th century, people were regularly being actually accused of being werewolves. So it's not, it's a long time ago, but not that long, if you're thinking all the way back to ancient Greece. So here a work by contemporary Canadian artist David Altmage called The Center from 2008. So I think that there's a great shift, or a great parallel between the cultural shifts experienced by those in the 19th century and our own current moment of rapid technological changes. I mean, it's really only been, a few years since the advent of the smartphone. I mean, think about that. Like, it's completely transformed how we live in the world. So in the face of this change, we, like our 19th century ancestors, are longing for a renewed connection with nature, and we are longing for a belief in the magical. So for example, in the opening sequence of Hemlock Grove, he actually draws this comparison, or the sequence draws a comparison to the previous age by actually showing images, medieval and Renaissance images of previous werewolves. So contemporary artists like David Altmage depicting the werewolf as this magical woodland creature in the process of transformation that's both somewhat grotesque but also beautiful at the same time. So contrary to our reliance on rational, factional information to understand the world, we want to believe, in the words of author Deborah Harkness, that the world is an inexplicably powerful and magical place. So werewolf TV shows, and actually supernatural creatures in general, allow us to believe that the world might just be a magical place after all. So I'm going to turn to Suzette Chan.
Great. I'm Suzette Chan. I'm features editrix for Sequential Tart. Next slide. I was interested in how two different TV shows can take the same urban legend and adapt it to tell their own stories. Both Supernatural, the show, and Sleepy Hollow are mainstream network TV shows that deal with family melodrama and supernatural mysteries. In general, the main characters solve a supernatural case each week, and both shows have devoted an episode to the story of the lost colony of Roanoke. So I'm going to start with some background about the lost colony. In the 1500s, the British made a few attempts to establish a colony on Roanoke Island in what's now North Carolina, including a mission in 1587 with 115 colonists. For various reasons, a resupply ship didn't arrive until 1580, and by then the colony was deserted. The only message left was a word carved into a tree, Croatoan. There's no conclusive evidence of where the colonists went, but there are ongoing geographical studies of the area and genotyping studies to determine if local native tribes, locals in those tribes bear genes that can be traced to the colonists. So the lost colony is essentially a historical and scientific story in our world. Eric Kripke, the creator of Supernatural, described the appeal of bringing that story into a supernatural setting. He said, the Roanoke legend is America's first ghost story. I remember hearing it in 5th grade, and I said, wow, why doesn't everybody know this story? An entire colony vanishing without a trace, and the only thing remaining is what's written on a tree, Croatoan. What a great real-life story. Later, I researched it and realized that Croatoan was most likely referring to a local Indian tribe, and this colony was left 3 years without provisions through winter, so looking back, it's reasonable to assume they faced a couple of tough winters and died out, or were victims of an Indian raid, or they left the outpost to receive help from the local Indian tribe and something befell them on the way. So, the failure of the colony, and more importantly, the failure of history and science to provide a conclusive reason for the disappearance creates room for fictional explanations. So why don't we look at the trailers for the two episodes. We're going to start with the Supernatural episode. It's called Croatoan.
What's going on out there, Dean?
It's not in me.
Maybe he's telling the truth.
It's supposed to do that.
Did they bleed on you?
Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not.
Who knows how far
Sorry.
this thing can...
I was like, it's supposed to be crazy. Oh, no, it's not.
Not that crazy.
Not that crazy. All right.
What's going on out there, Dean?
It's not in me.
Maybe he's telling the truth.
Did they bleed on you?
Who knows how far this thing can spread?
Oh God. We're all gonna die.
Supernatural. All new next Thursday at 9/8 Central on the new CW.
And now we're going to see the promo for the Sleepy Hollow episode, which was called John Doe.
Do you think I look out of place in this century?
You look good for 200. We found a kid that looks like he stepped off the Mayflower.
It seems his identity is as much of a mystery as his disorder. If Thomas does indeed carry a plague, the effects could be apocalyptic.
We have monsters in Sleepy Hollow. Absolute panic.
Monarch. I've been infected.
Do not take him! You fight for your life! Fight for the both of us!
All new Sleepy Hollow next Monday on Fox.
So as you can see, the promos both tease the episode as a scientific thriller, but that's not exactly what you got. In Croatoan, the residents of the town go berserk and they start acting like the fast zombies in 28 days. 28 days later. 28 Days is another film, I always get them mixed up. A local doctor isolates a virus that might be causing the outbreak, but the crisis ends abruptly after the virus empties out most of the town. It turns out the virus was created by demons, who called it Croatoan. They plan to use it to kill all humans except Sam Winchester, who was chosen to lead the demon army in the coming apocalypse. In the Sleepy Hollow episode, a young boy in 1500s clothing appears mysteriously. His name is Thomas, and he is one of the members of the Lost Colony. The colony had been, in terms of Sleepy Hollow's world, it had been set upon by Pestilence, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The youngest member had died and led the rest of the colonists into a hidden realm where they could survive without feeling the effects of the disease. So they sheltered the modern world from the disease. But of course, now modern humans have no immunity to it. Ichabod Crane realizes how important it is to keep these realms separate. If other colonists cross the boundary, they could release a contagion that would have, quote-unquote, apocalyptic effects. The fictional universes of Sleepy Hollow and Supernatural, in those universes, science masks the unimaginable cruelty of the supernatural. And that's the opposite of beliefs in the real world, where myth and superstition are said to explain what's discomforting about science, the unfathomable cruelty of randomness or biological processes. Another aspect of the virus story that's useful for both these shows is the idea of unseen dangers from within our own bodies. In Supernatural, a demon infected Sam Winchester's blood when he was a baby. And that was all part of a demon deal that his mother made to save her family, but she never knew the exact terms. Sam doesn't find out about this until after the Croatoan incident, but years later he says he had always felt that he was not clean, that he had evil in him, and was unpure. So he was feeling threatened by his own blood and his own bloodline, even though he didn't know exactly those things when he was growing up. In Sleepy Hollow, the modern world is threatened by an ancient artifact, and this is a bedrock conflict of Gothic literature. The buried past emerges to impact the present. On this show, it's Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman. There are 2 figures of the Revolutionary War whose fates were intertwined by the magical mingling of their blood as they died in the battlefield. Because their conflict was not resolved in the past, where they belong, it plays out in the present, which stands to be destroyed. So this brings us to a foundational theme of both Sleepy Hollow and Supernatural, that the natural and supernatural realms must remain separate to save humanity. This high-level goal is both a mission and a metaphor for maintaining family integrity in both shows. The John Doe episodes opens with one of Ichabod's characteristically cranky complaints about modern technology, in this case those infernal blister packs that are nearly impossible and quite dangerous to open. Later, he's horrified by isolation chambers at the hospital. But appropriate barriers are crucial to Ichabod's mission and indeed his life. He needs to stop Pestilence, the other horsemen of the apocalypse, and Moloch from breaking through to the human world. At the same time, he needs to open a conduit to purgatory, where his wife, the witch Karina, is being held. On Supernatural, it's the Winchester family business to kill monsters and save people, to keep the supernatural separate from the natural. This is complicated by the fact that angels and demons have manipulated humans over centuries to create Sam and Dean. The brothers are destined to be the human vessels for an apocalyptic fight between the brother archangels Michael, representing angels, and Lucifer, representing demons. The Winchesters are the ultimate champions of humans, yet they're virtually supernatural beings. Throughout the series, Sam and Dean have had to defend their bodies from being breached, and on the show it is put in terms of sexual violence by angels and demons alike. Otherwise, the boundaries between the natural and supernatural worlds would be violated and humanity would be lost. This leads to a troublesome note in the discourse about the lost colony. Framing it as a mystery emphasizes the vanishing aspect or the specter of an Indian massacre. But another option is assimilation. The colonists could have been assimilated into neighboring Indian tribes. This is a lot less spooky yet a lot more scary than supernatural disappearances. The colonists were supposed to be the ones with modern technology, science, and knowledge. They weren't supposed to be to look to the native tribes for help. The natives were supposed to be savages. By adapting the Lost Colony story as they have, Sleepy Hollow and Supernatural retain the cultural insecurity over human ambitions and displace the anxiety over ethnic or racial differences. These episodes of Supernatural and Sleepy Hollow end on very different notes. On Sleepy Hollow, Lieutenant Abby Mills, an avatar of a modern evidence-based investigator, solves the supernatural mystery by realizing that the water in the hidden realm is key to the cure. The magical water is used to cure the modern humans, and after Pestilence is defeated and Thomas is returned to the colonists are finally allowed to move on to the next realm. The episode offers a good measure of hope that the horsemen of the apocalypse can be stopped. Defeating Moloch would pave the way for Ichabod and Katrina's reunion and removal to a more appropriate place for their souls. Meanwhile, the fight against the supernatural is bringing Abby closer to her estranged sister. Supernatural forces had disrupted both these families, but could also bring them back together. On Supernatural, Sam and Dean hadn't figured out what had happened by the end of Croatoan. They did conclude that Sam is immune to the virus, but they didn't realize that Croatoan was a demon experiment. Dean is bothered by this lack of resolution, telling Sam that this case felt like the one that got away. The Croatoan virus would reappear in season 5. Now in season 9, Sam and Dean still fight to keep heaven and hell out of humanity's business and out of interfering with their personal relationship. In the absence of resolution, these things are still at stake: the integrity of their bodies, minds, and family, and the survival of humanity.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to Jessica Bay, who's talking about why girls love the boys who attack them on TV.
So I'm not talking about Supernatural, so you guys that were worried about spoilers, you're okay. And I'm actually a little bit behind on the two shows I'm talking about, so we're good. So, again, I'm Jessica Bay, and so in this presentation I'm going to talk about the use of supernatural creatures to justify the normalization of specific behavioral traits for teenagers and their relationships. Sounds like a big mouthful. The popularity of supernatural creatures in movies, books, and on TV right now offers a unique opportunity for creators to, hopefully unknowingly, perpetuate ideas regarding relationship and gender dynamics while appealing to a popular mindset. So basically, I'm going to be talking about Teen Wolf and Vampire Diaries. So because supernatural creatures are in fact different species, they can and do justify their less desirable actions as elements of their natures. Damon on the Vampire Diaries does this all the time, particularly in the first 2 seasons, as he reminds Elena or Stefan that he's a vampire whenever they tell him they're disappointed by some act he has committed or thing he has said. In fact, Damon regularly uses his vampire nature as an excuse to make the rash or undesirable decision early in the show's run. Actually, we can click. Both the Vampire Diaries and Teen Wolf are built on this idea in that initially, at least, Stefan and Scott are fighting their very natures, while Damon and Derek, to a certain extent, have embraced theirs, although this changes over both runs. Being shows initially directed at teenagers, the changes the main male characters in particular endure are also tied with hormonal changes experienced during this time of life. This is very true of Scott's character, as his changes are physical, and his ability to control his transformations is tied very closely to his ability to control himself around Allison. We see that the most dangerous time for Scott early in his new life as a werewolf is when he's alone with Allison. Likewise, his new abilities on the lacrosse field are simply seen as an element of his physical growth as a teenager, whereas he's actually become a wolf as well as a man. Meanwhile, Stefan has had almost 150 years to mature, yet he's still seen as a teenager by many, early for sure, in part because he is Damon's younger brother. In the case of Stefan, his young age but years of maturity combine to make him the perfect boyfriend, at first anyway. He's young enough looking to do teenage things with Elena and her friends, but experienced enough that she trusts him as an elder immediately and does what he says, usually without question. I'm still talking human Elena here. Part of this unquestioning trust is definitely due to Stefan's experience in life, but also with vampires in general and Damon and Catherine in particular. But another part of this trust is due to the control Stefan begins to exert over Elena, and this is subconscious. I'm not saying that Stefan is actively trying to be this person. Through his actions, Stefan subconsciously convinces Elena that she is best served by trusting him, the vampire that loves her. His actions actually mimic those found in relationships built on control. Statistics show that half of all women in Canada have experienced at least one incident of physical or sexual violence since the age of 16, and that the rates of violent crime against women aged 15 to 24 is 42% higher than rates for women just a little bit older, and it's even more so for the females on these shows. The men in these relationships don't always exhibit violence, but when they do, it can be sporadic and is almost always followed by deep regret and apologies. Often, the female partners feel they would not survive without the male partner, or feel that they want to stay because they love this man despite his issues. But is this what's really happening in these shows? And I see it definitely in these two for sure. Vampire Diaries, very much so. So we're going to look at that one, and Elena constantly has men appear uninvited in her bedroom as though they had the right. So we see Stefan regularly appearing. They just pop up behind these doors all the time. And actually, Stefan is even worse because he actually appears in her room and kisses her while she's asleep and leaves before she wakes up. And like watching that, you think, oh, that's sweet, but at the same time, that's really not very sweet. Damon appears out of nowhere regularly, like all the time. And early on, of course, Uncle John / Dad also feels it's his right to walk in whenever he feels like it. By the end of the first season, not even a year with Stefan and Damon in her life, Elena has come to accept these intrusions into her personal space as part of her normal everyday life. And this trope is consistent across the paranormal genre. We all know about Edward's need to watch Bella sleep. You can click. And the first time Scott watched Allison sleep, my younger sister actually exclaimed, "Oh good, I knew we couldn't get through one of these shows without a boy stalking the girl." This is episode 2. We all recognize it as stalking, but we also all recognize that the boy in question is doing it because he loves her so much. At this moment, we know that Scott is watching Allison sleep because another supernatural creature wants to get to her through him or get to him through her. So instead of telling her everything, why don't they ever tell the right people? He watches over her secretly. So what does all of this mean? Well, because we as viewers and fans recognize that Stefan and Damon can't help being violent and aggressive because it's in their vampire nature to be predators with heightened rage, and that Scott is possessive because his werewolf nature requires him to protect his pack and his mate, we forgive many elements of their behavior. So we forgive him stalking her because that's part of him being a werewolf, not just a possessive man. And because these characters are the main love interests for the female protagonists, we want their relationships to succeed. As such, the shows are making relationships with a lot of passion and love, but also violence and possessiveness appear normal, particularly for the teen girls to whom the shows are marketed. So hopefully this clip is going to work, is a clip from season 1, episode 18 of the Vampire Diaries. There's just a little bit of violence in this. If it works, there's violence.
Oh, no.
No, it's not.
Let's try again.
No, because it should have played automatic. Okay, well, I'll tell you what happened. This is season 1, episode 18, and Stefan is on human blood, so he's gone a little crazy, and he shows up in the room and he's telling Elena to leave, and he attacks her and pushes her up against the wall, and you know, bangs the wall behind her, and she forgives him, and he cries on her shoulder, and she just pats him and forgives him, and that's the end of the clip. So we see Stefan exhibiting violence, and Elena forgives it. If we saw this exact scene that you didn't see on a non-supernatural show, would we be so willing to forgive Stefan? I really hope not. I mean, he pushes her up against the wall, and then she says it's okay. Because we forgive his vampire nature, though, it's not his fault. He was on human blood. We are able to... Any other panel, that would sound really weird. So we forgive his human nature, or vampire nature, and this lets us identify with Elena and continue to care for Stefan. But it's also easier for us to consider their relationship normal. Even girls who know how to avoid abusive relationships, like Elena, who after all started out asking for equality and trust and openness, girls like Elena still feel that Stefan and Elena, or Delena, are their OTP because they are just so obviously in love with each other. I should mention that this normalization is more obvious for heterosexual teens, as those are the majority of the relationships depicted. The one openly gay character on Teen Wolf is not a featured character for most episodes, but at least the very little of his relationships we see appear to be healthy. And we can click past that. So I'm not saying we stop watching these shows, because obviously I like them too. Or stop reading the books, or watch the movies, any of it. We should be a little bit more critical, I think, while watching, and we should be calling for maybe less abusive relationships every once in a while would be nice. For the female characters, because, I mean, if we think about it, even Steric is a relationship of power, but at least the power shifts back and forth between the two, because it's two men in that situation, right? For those, that's Styles and Derek, just for those who don't know that. Perhaps it would be useful for some of these shows to pair with organizations offering dating violence or support. And this isn't to say that the female characters on the shows haven't gained some power and control. In fact, the clip that you didn't get to see, right after that, Elena stabs Stefan with, to take him down, kind of thing. So they do have the power and the control, but why do all the relationships have to be violent is basically, and why do we forgive all of those relationships? Yeah, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Colleen Devine talking about angels in Doctor Who.
So I chose to talk about angels because they're not one of the big three supernatural creatures. So I'm going to talk about angels in Doctor Who, but also I think my talk has sort of turned into a survey of angels, because there seems to be more of them, and they're more interesting than I perhaps maybe thought they were when I started preparing this. So angels as supernatural entities appear in many of the world's religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam amongst them. And the meaning of the word angel comes from the Greek angelos, which means messenger or envoy. Though there is evidence of angelic spirits in Zoroastrianism, I totally think I said that wrong, and Egyptian mythology. And so the tradition of angels as supernatural beings predates Abrahamic faiths quite considerably. Angels generally are visually depicted as male humanoids, have wings, though there are very few textual references to wings. And in fact, the first angels with wings that are mentioned are cherubs or cherubim in Judaic texts, and they had angels, but also the bodies of lions, the faces of young children, and the wings of hawks. So not quite Renaissance cherubs. And then usually we sort of associate them with being surrounded by a nimbus of light or a halo, and a popular subject for Middle Ages and Renaissance art. And you can see here lots of very famous paintings of angels, Titian and Michelangelo amongst them. These paintings were used as decorative elements as well as signifiers of religious stories and parables. And the images of Renaissance angels have particularly influenced the visual representation of angels and the images that we see today. And they have also become a bit of a signifier of the Christian faith, even though angels are found in many faiths. Slide. So angels are popular in modern narratives, in books, on TV, and in films. And I'd forgotten half of these when I started to go into the Google well. And I've added some movies, even though we were supposed to be talking just about TV, because I think that the movie angels have influenced current TV angels quite a bit. Here we see images of 2003's HBO Angels in America, based on the play by the same name from the 80s, that explores very political themes, homosexuality and HIV amongst them, and particularly New York. And the angels are super angelic and mystical looking and very beautiful, if we can look at them that way. We have 1996 Michael, starring John Travolta as the Archangel Michael, who just happens to be a slob, perhaps an alcoholic, and a smoker, though capable of instigating an epiphany in the character played by Andy McDowell. An image of City of Angels from 1998, where Meg Ryan convinces an angel played by Nicolas Cage to fall, both figuratively and literally, for her. There was a lot of crying in the theater when I went and saw that movie. Really? People were literally like, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, weeping. It's Nicolas Cage. Touched by an Angel, which I call mum programming when talking about television, because my mum literally watches that. But it ran from 1994 to 2003, and it saw a trio of angels trying to bring depressed people back to God. 9 years of that. I have also included an image of Teen Angel from 1997, which was created by the writers of The Simpsons and lasted a year on the Disney Channel. I know, if you want to see an angel, give someone a wedgie. And then also Saving Grace, which ran from 2007 to 2010, where Earl the Angel tries to save the soul of the hard-drinking detective and maybe solve a few crimes along the way. And we sort of see angels in these cases usually as being very helpful. These are helpful angels. But angels are morphing. And if we go to the next slide, in Kevin Smith's Dogma from 1999, we see Ben Affleck and Matt Damon portraying fallen angels trying to get back into heaven, though they are certainly less than angelic. We also saw a portrayal of a more vengeful, militant, less humanity-loving angel in Legion from 2010, where God sends angels to destroy humanity, though the Archangel Michael, played by Paul Bettany, stands with us with a machine gun. And then Constantine from 2005, truly transmedia work, in that it's a movie based on the comic book series Hellblazer, and in the movie, Keanu Reeves' titular character talks to half-breed angels, including the androgynous Tilda Swinton, which is really the main reason to watch that movie, but also exorcises demons in a bid to seek salvation from eternal damnation. If we go to the next slide, as for angels today, I know how to do fan service. Supernatural's Castiel, played by Misha Collins, seems to embody both the elements of helpful guardian spirit, but also militant warrior. Castiel manifests on this plane through possession of a human body, and he is referred to his true angelic form as a multidimensional wavelength of celestial intent. Best way to pick people up. So there does seem to be a developing trope of angels being more human or earthy, as we could put it. And it sort of, comes from Michael through City of Angels, but becomes more militant and vengeful as we progress through the different manifestations. Castiel embodies this new angel aesthetic with the ever-present trench coat, which seems to be an angel thing. And they certainly are a far cry from the wings, halos, and celestial light of Renaissance paintings. And while we could literally talk for days about Castiel, I'm willing to. I did want to talk about the really odd appearance of angels in Doctor Who. So, creatures that embody traditional Christian angelic elements appearing in a science fiction TV show with a time-traveling doctor is a little odd, to say the least. The show that frequently espouses reason and science and the doctor who often debunks myths of cultures by revealing and perhaps defeating advanced aliens from other planets or dimensions. But perhaps the elements of Christianity can't help to show up in a show where Christmas Day seems to be fairly epic throughout time and the series as a whole. So in the Christmas episode, Voyage of the Dam, we have the appearance of the heavenly host aboard the spaceship version of the Titanic. And these are angelic robots operated by Max Capricorn, ex-cruise line owner, and they are slavishly controlled by him. They have no free thought, no souls, and are strictly androids. The hosts wear their traditional angelic robes, their skin is metallic gold, and their halos come off and act as deadly sharp throwing weapons. These angels also fly, though their wings do not flap. And through a series of events, the Titanic spaceship, just as its earthly namesake, is damaged and begins to fall into the Earth's atmosphere. The Doctor and a band of alien misfits that did not die in the initial meteor crash try to save themselves and their ship, all the while being attacked by the host. It's not until Capricorn is killed through the act of sacrifice by Astrid, who happens to be played by Kylie Minogue, and the angels revert to their next highest authority on the ship, who just happens to be the Doctor. Then the angels stop their assault. If we go to the next slide, in another Christmas episode, The Unquiet Dead, we had the introduction of the species called the Gelth. These are seemingly beautiful, ethereal spirits from another dimension. Gwyneth, played by Eve Miles, refers to them as angelic. And they are floaty and wispy, non-corporeal in form, though able to embody human beings. Sounds a little familiar. Initially, in the episode of the Gelth, they're seen as refugees from the Time War, and the Doctor agrees to help them by allowing them to cross through the rift so that he can then transport them to a new home. But unfortunately, the Gelth are incredibly numerous, and instead of accepting the help of the Doctor, they intend to kill humanity and take over the planet Earth. The rift is closed, and the Gelth invasion stopped by the sacrifice of Gwyneth. And then, of course, if we go to, it's not going to play, is it?
Sadly, no.
No. Imagine an angel, a weeping angel looking at you. Of course, when I say angels in Doctor Who, this is what we immediately think of, weeping angels. Not associated with Christmas episodes and often described as one of the scariest villains in the entire series. Weeping angels are seen as typically earthly gravesite statuary, beautiful sculptures that come to life, but only when you are not looking at them. These angels are strong and possess the ability to snap necks, but typically the angels send their victims back in time so that they can feed on time energy. So they're horrible. What?
Just a couple more minutes.
Okay. So they are fast and silent, and they can do this in a literal blink of an eye. The angels are described as quantum locked when looked at directly, even by themselves, which is why they are frequently seen covering their own eyes, thus giving them the appearance of eternally crying. The weeping angels appear in 6 episodes of Doctor Who, and in most of the episodes where they appear, people are sacrificed to defeat them. And through this sacrifice is usually sacrificing their present lives as opposed to their earthly life by going back into the past. So they're still alive, but not in this time period. This is most acutely seen with Rory and Amy in their very last episode of Doctor Who. I know, boo. So, while each of the villains in Doctor Who possesses angelic qualities, they rarely function as angels. So while the topic of angels requires and deserves further examination, I'd like to leave you with some thoughts about who perhaps the real angel in the series is. If we think back to the Greek meaning of the word messenger, perhaps it is Doctor Who himself, who in fact acts angelic. And often acting to bring reason and explaining the mysterious events of the universe, we could see the Doctor as a messenger of rationality. And if we also think back to the sacrifices that are required by Astrid on the Titanic, Gwyneth in Dickensian in England, and Rory and Amy, perhaps we can see the Doctor also as an angel of death, who helps souls pass on peacefully. And perhaps we can see the Doctor as a guardian angel who protects humanity from the vagaries of the universe. He does occasionally wear a trench coat. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, but if you want to pop up and ask us a quick question. Also, I teach online live participatory seminars about supernatural, and I have one that's starting on May 6th, so if you're interested in that, come up and grab a card and sign my sign-up sheet. Thanks again. Oh, awesome. Yeah, each week, it's a 6-week class, and you can drop in any week. It's only $25 a class. It's in Edmonton, but it's streamed. So basically, it's not just streamed. I use Adobe Connect and Google Hangouts, so we all are kind of in a virtual room together. And you watch a TV show and a film before class, and then we discuss those, and then I also talk about them in relationship to art. Yeah. Right on, and yeah, leave your Twitter as well, and I'll be happy to follow you on Twitter, and if you have it. Here you go. You're welcome. I'm glad you liked it. That's okay if you can't think of it. That's cool. I'll email you a syllabus.
Oh, yes, we should totally do it.
Right. Yeah, email it to me.
Yep.
I'm Kristen. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do a week on angels for sure.
Thanks very much. Oh yeah, we got another one.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm distracted. No, I'm apologizing to you, not to you. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think Greek mythology is always wacky. You know, there's all these stories of people being turned into animals. You know, it's like, yeah, they're usually, well, I mean, Greek mythology was meant to sort of convey moral stories, right? So it's interesting to see like how that supernatural continues to do that and does that differently for each period. Like does that differently in the medieval period and differently in the Renaissance and differently in the 19th century. But there's also in the 19th century a discovery that a number of people were actually suffering from a disease called ergotism, and they actually believed that they were werewolves. And it was actually grains that had become poisoned. So there was, you know, kind of like the same as witches. There were actually, you know, people that claimed to be werewolves, rather than simply being accused of being werewolves.
And it was one of HBO's like big, like all of a sudden everybody was watching it. Michael, City of Angels, yeah.
I think the myth probably made it so that the people believed, like they heard the myth, and then I think the myth happened first.
It is bad beyond compare. Saving Grace, which is really interesting because the angel side.
Yeah, I know less about like the kind of the Greek iteration than I do sort of of the 19th century or the Gothic, but yeah, totally, yeah. Yeah, well, I'm writing a book right now about supernatural creatures in film, television, and art. So I'm actually working on my werewolf chapter right now. So yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, totally.
It wasn't CW.
Oh yeah, sorry.
But it
Yeah.
wasn't one
Well,
of the big
hopefully,
three.
take the class and be able to chat every week. Yeah.
Kristen, do you remember what network Saving Grace was on? But like AMC. Wasn't it on Bravo here in Canada?
Yeah, it might have been Showcase, the American.
Yeah.
I think it was the American Showcase. Yeah.
No problem.
Who?
Probably turn down. Straight show on stage. Show just like yesterday.
Yeah. Even though my dad was told not to, he did it anyway. Hold on. Let me just address this and I'll leave you. Or it happened.
Sounds like an adventure. Yeah, painful one. All the good kinds of adventures are.
Okay, good. I can't make that call. Sorry. Where do we need to be?
Sure. On stage.
Yeah, let's go on stage.
Are we moving that back? Like last time?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
All
then
I
we'll
want
keep
to
it there.
back.
Yes. Yes, it's mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
This is girls over 14.
Oh, wait. I gotta get the cards.
Where's my wife?
I wouldn't be surprised.
well, sorry.
In a bit. In a bit.
Which one?
You decide.
That's our one of the only 2 extra smalls we have in this building. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Have extra small shirts?
Yeah. So
Oh, I have a small.
okay. You want to try an extra small?
Yeah, if you need somebody with a.
Oh,
This is fine. I don't
Oh,
care.
you're comfy? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna sit down. If anyone wants to do an Indian circle or something. All right. Indian circle.
That's racist. It's native racist. They're doing racist.
Yeah, I'm not going to get that.
So, basically, just recap of how this works. For basically every game that we need a ask for, we're going to use a black card. This game is still more or less PG-13 for those who haven't done a late night show before. We just keep it straight. They provide the ideas. We're not the guys who do the comedy guzzling whatever the game is.
Yeah.
And then for some other games, we may just grab a pile of the white cards, which are the answers, and just ask someone to randomly pick them. Right? Again, it's them, not us, to find out the Otherwise, it's just a straightforward show. And at the top of the show and at the end, we're going to be pimping these things.
Yep.
We really want to get rid of as many.
Yeah, they're freaking pumped out there.
So we're not. Yeah.
It's too many.
Yeah, there's way too many for what was.
Well, that's
Like
up
double.
That's up to the episode tonight. Let's deal with this.
So, again, the games we have are World's Worst for Everyone, One Word Story, West and Me have that. Everything else is unassigned right now. The games are Every Other Line, Random Lines, 1 of 2 times, Sound Effects, More Specific, Living Scenery, Random Lines again, Halftime Fairy Tales, the last one we have scheduled, we have group, maybe one more.
Okay, I'll be the straight man for every other line.
I'll be one of the people that reads.
I'll be a reader for
halftime, no offense guys, but I think for halftime fairy tale we need the lighter people on
Like,
stage.
Yeah,
can I do that?
Dibs out on halftime.
I'll do halftime
We need some of the
fairy
lightest people we have.
Okay, wait. Let's back. I can't scribble that down fast enough. So, first off, Every Other Line. Byron, Straight Man, Ryan, reading. Anyone, who else needs to read?
Chris.
Chris is gonna read it. Okay. Next up, Random Lines number 1. 3 people.
I'd be down for that, Richard.
Richard, good.
Sure, I can do it.
Gail, Kyle, step, more specific. Okay, guys, you got to shout your name. Sorry, Richard. Richard. Okay, I need 2 more people for more specific.
I'll go. I'll be up twice. That's the problem. Yeah, send Chris in there.
Okay. And one more? Kyle. Kyle. No, that's more specific. Okay, next up, living scenery.
Sure, hi.
I'll do that.
Me too. Tom.
Tom? And Byron?
Yep.
Okay. Round lines number 2, Wes.
Yay.
I'll be in. Ryan.
And who hasn't been up for?
No, you're just in the other one.
Yeah, I was just the other one. I want to be around.
I want to be in.
I have it. Okay, and halftime fairy tale.
Michaela.
Yeah.
I'll go in there.
We're like, and we can move everywhere.
Actually, no. I'll do primary hosting. So we need 2 more for halftime fairy tale, or at least 1 more.
I can do it, Ryan.
Or you can spread it.
So now I'm not on the phone.
Okay, and if we're gonna do, another big group game, which one should I do? We have World's Worst off the top.
I like my girlfriend like I like my blank.
No, it's an easy one.
Blank! Cards against blank! Come on! We can keep it PG. We can seriously keep that PG.
So I like my
girlfriend like I like my blank. It's perfect for it's perfect. Yeah.
14 guys. 14
It's perfect for the Cards Against Humanity.
What, just one to their,
Yeah. Okay, so Byron already searched the bracelets.
Yep. I've got the wristband, so we can sell them.
Merch is ready to go when
Yeah, all shirts are ordered in size.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll handle primary hosting then.
Yep.
Again, just out.
Okay, just to reiterate.
Right. World's Worst. Everyone. One word story. Wes and me. Every other line. Let's see. Chris, Ryan, Byron. You're straight now.
Yep.
Random lines number 1. Michaela, Kyle, Richard.
Do we need to start handing out random lines right now?
Yeah, I actually.
Okay, right after this we do. Yeah. Okay. Sound effects.
Someone needs to come help me with all the stuff.
Me and Tom.
Yeah.
And 2 people from the audience. More specific, Kyle, Chris, Richard, living scenery, Michaela, Byron, Tom, round lines number 2, Wes, Ryan, and Tom again. Halftime fairy tale.
T-shirts.
Ryan, Michaela, and Chris.
And maybe another person.
Hello?
Maybe
wait until everybody comes in.
And then I like my
Okay, hang on.
Okay. All right, let's go.
round lines. Need lots of them. Thank you.
Break.
I don't think they're on yet. Not yet.
Break.
You know what to say, Kana?
I know. After you stop laughing.
So guys, I got good news and I got bad news for you. The good news, you're already so close to the stage. The bad news, this is the splash zone.
There's T-shirts for.
No, I splash.
I talk like
Said there's
you
nobody
need a
after us.
splash?
We should have a second show where we just let in everybody who couldn't get in.
That would be
the first
awesome,
time.
but I wish we could. We have limits on the venue. So,
I'm afraid I'll break you on the phone.
The microphones are on.
okay.
So you can sit on it when you're in the
You have to
military.
wave at the
like
back.
the rest of us.
Yeah.
My dad served in the military.
Yeah, but he's lazy.
Actually, it's right here. Master. Hello. There we go. All right. Sorry, as everyone's filing in, if everyone could look towards the front here. Chris, hang on, Chris.
Chris, get out of it.
Okay, there's, well, you have a message, right? What do you want to say?
There's T-shirts after the show.
Anybody else?
Diabolical monster.
Yeah, anybody else just get diabetes from that? Because I need an insulin shot now.
I need fillings for my teeth.
Hang on. What you? This is not a talent show. Okay. What do you want to sing?
By the way, earmuffs. It's 14 plus.
Do you want to build a snowman? Or ride it around high? Overdo talking to the pictures on the wall.
And we're done. Good night. through that way. He's seating people right now, but he would probably know who to contact, who to get authority to say if we can run a bit longer.
You can tell the lineup.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that Dave was in here earlier. We could have just asked that.
We didn't know that.
Yeah, that's true.
Do we have 2 mics hooked up? We're ready to go.
That's good.
On the red?
You're good.
Or do we?
For sound effects,
Push it right
yes.
to the equivalent to the black one. All the way to the black one. All the way to the level of the black one. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Now, sorry. We have now deafened Byron. Good. Now he can't hear for when we're asking for suggestions.
What?
Yeah. All right. How many people here have seen a 404 show before? Just hands up. Whoa! Thank you for actually liking us. It's great. For those of you who are not familiar with the show, we do a lot of little improvised scenes up here. One of our more popular games is one we call Random Lines. And for that one, we need you guys to write down suggestions on little bits of paper. And we've got the bits of paper as well as the pens here. We want all of our pens back, otherwise we will not start the show. But anyways, when you get a bit of paper, write down something you like on it. Write down a line of dialogue, a favorite song lyric, something for us to say up here. Now, the show is called Improv Against Humanity, based on the game Cards Against Humanity. For those, how many people have played the game Cards Against Humanity? Oh, there we go. So, just as an FYI, this is a 14-plus show. This is a 14-plus performance. However, just try to keep it in that area. We are not an R-rated or 18-plus show here. We're a little bit more than the average, but we're not quite actual Cards Against Humanity thing. We want to do this show again, okay? So when you get your chance to make a suggestion, keep it relatively clean. Well, keen too. Yeah, I know, but anywho, so we're going to get all the suggestions out there. Once we get those back in, hopefully everyone will be seated and we'll get going right away.
Are you okay with the angle and everything?
I don't. Mark, you have a marker. Marker?
It'll be turned on shortly. We're good. I'll win. Wanna know why? I'll cheat.
All right. As we're filling in our last seats here, we're going to try to pack in as many people as we can before we close off. If anybody has a blank seat next to them, we really want to fill every seat here. So hold your hand up if you have a blank seat next to you, and our lovely volunteers will fill them in. And then there's also the front here too. But yeah. So if you have a seat, an open seat next to you, just hold up your hand. We'll get somebody sitting in there. Yep. What do you feel comfortable doing?
I can jump in there for a minute. I want to get everybody to raise their hands.
Yeah, let's do it.
There's like a bunch of seats up here. Is there more coming in?
There's a ton of people. Or they just, yeah. Room guy, is it okay if we open up the front seats? There's no other VIPs. Okay. FYI, there's 3 rows here with open seats. Some of them don't have as great a view, but there's seats up here if people want to jump up. And there's actually some nice ones over here.
He's saying.
No? Okay, all right. We'll leave it to Ian. Sorry.
Does that say Sword Factory? No. Stop cheating. Well, like I said, we're gonna try and back to Yeah.
You gave a piece of paper.
Are we out of paper? Seriously?
I got a couple people come up here asking for paper.
Alright.
That's enough. We don't need any more. Okay, everyone, with suggestions, Michaela, the lovely Michaela, has a black box into which we can place these suggestions for this evening. So please go ahead. We need to, for the benefit of apparently 63 countries worth of people that this event is streaming to. By the way, wow. We want to start as close to 6:45 as possible. So if you guys can just pass your suggestions into the aisle, Michaela will be able to pick them up for you, and then we'll get going.
What jokes that these guys can get. Not for like the 6 underworlders that are in the audience.
That's all right, man. We'll make do.
I'm telling you, man, like, we need to have jokes these guys.
Sean?
Like, that's an
It's the red button on the back to start recording, and then the red button to stop it. Real simple design.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
So redo that?
I'm going to throw this guy out and just... We have a bunch of seats up here at the front that we're going to give out to people that want them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our last panel for the evening in here. When we leave here, we are officially after the time that we have booked for this. So you will need to leave the halls fairly quickly. I just ask that you prepare for that there's going to be no more ABC, no more DE. You're just going to be heading out of the grounds and preparing to leave. So my name's Dave. I am the programming manager, programming coordinator, lead for the Expo. So all of this is my fault. You're going out of here. And I truly appreciate every single one of you because we've been working on this since October, and we couldn't do it if you guys didn't show up. But I want you to give a moment of credit to these guys in the burgundy shirts. They have given up their own time to be here to make all of this work. And I couldn't do this without them, and we couldn't do this without them. So I want you to enjoy this show. That means you got to turn off your cell phones. Turn off your cell phones. It means that you got to sit back and relax. You know, except this guy who's turning his cell phone on, and I'm going to throw him out. He doesn't think I have the power to do this. You know what? I'll take it. All right. We are now 2 minutes to start. There is the opportunity for you guys to comment. If you enjoy what you're seeing in front of you, head over to the customer service desk and fill out a survey. We are giving away a weekend pass or 2 to people who fill out the survey. So it's kind of our way of bribing you to let us know what you think of what we've got going. These guys, don't give them any good credit. No good comments. They're just...
Just give us the 5 that we deserve at the end of the thing. Out of 5.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to the 404s. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Dave. One more hand for Dave and all the Expo volunteers. Okay. All right. You guys have already been a wonderful audience. We're going to kick off the show in about 30 seconds here. But first, we want everybody on their feet to cheer because we have Dean back there. He's going to be taking a picture of all of us with all of you in the background. This one gets posted on just about everything because you guys have freaking packed the room. Sorry for everyone we had to turn away, but I wish we had a larger room. Okay, look, everyone on your feet, get ready to cheer. And let's have a cheer for the show. What are we going to say?
Yes!
Yes! Yes! Yes! Yes! And that way. Yes! 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 All right. want to be able to shout to everybody in the back. Hopefully everyone in the back can hear us, yes? All right, good.
FlipON.TV, can you hear us?
Yay. 63 countries.
Cool.
Yeah, okay.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Awesome. All right, we are the 404s. We are an improv comedy group. We are often referred to as the house team of comedians for the Expo because we've been here for many years. They love to invite us back. We love to perform for fellow nerds because you are awesome. We have a great little show. This is one of our themed shows for the evening. The show is called Improv Against Humanity. So one more time, by way of cheering, who here has played Cards Against Humanity? What's going to happen here is that we are going to have our Cards Against Humanity set down here. For our, when we ask for suggestions, we're going to read out a question here and take the answer from you guys. Keep it relatively mature. This is a 14 plus rated show.
Is there anybody under the age of 14?
Connor earmuffs.
Anybody else?
My little girl is 4, so.
Starting him young.
Well, she grew up on stage. So, anyways, so we're going to be asking questions here. You guys provide the answers there, and then we'll be doing our show games rather with those suggestions from you guys. And we're going to start off with a game that we call, actually it's a warm up. It's called World's Worst. It doesn't involve these, but it involves you guys throwing out suggestions with a raised hand for the world's worst something. And so hands up. World's worst something. Yo.
Superhero.
World's worst superhero. Off we go.
Fear not, for I have arrived. It's me, Bullet Magnet. My cape. Come on. I'm Captain Lazy. Don't worry. I'll save you tomorrow, homeless man. I'm Captain McDonald's. You. Don't worry. I'm Captain Morgan.
Okay, all right. Moving on. World's worst. Hands up. Yo.
Babysitter.
World's worst babysitter.
All right, baby's had his bath. Okay. Deet, 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 deet.
22! 48! It's good!
Where's the off switch? Ladies and gentlemen who are on our last show, I present to you Gregor Colgate, the throne of babies!
So that's what, the 5th time you've gone? Get away from mom and dad.
Moving on. Next up. World's worst. Blue. Yeah. Dentist.
Hold steady!
This won't hurt a bit. For me.
Good morning. I'm British.
Remember to pick up your complimentary cookie.
Are you Adrian?
I'm gonna date myself here a little bit, but you'll be a dentist. Oh, you'll be a great success. Now say ah. Now say ah. Now spit. Okay, I think you've had enough gas.
Okay,
No, don't worry, I won't feel a thing.
All right, next up, Jane hat.
World's worst first date.
How have we been there? Okay.
Wesley from the 404s, everybody!
I brought taquitos from 7-Eleven.
Hi, does this smell like chloroform to you? Damn it. I'm Captain McDonald's.
So what's your favorite genocide?
One more. Yeah, Richard. World's worst clothing.
I'm in a video game.
Next up, we're going to go to a game we call One Word Story. This is a game in which we tell you a story one
word
at a time. Got it? We're not going to repeat that. Okay, this is going to be our first suggestion here. Yeah, okay. The question is step 1, blank, step 2, blank, step 3, profit. Okay? So for the question, step 1, blank, step 2, blank, step 3, profit. Step 1 is, hands up. Yeah. Eat. Step 2 is, yeah. What's that? What did you say?
Cartwheels.
Cartwheels. Step 1, eat. Step 2, cartwheels. Step 3, profit.
Okay.
You better stretch for this, Wes.
All right. Looking
Ouch!
over
The
crowd.
I
Had
a
idea.
I
Wanted
to
earn
how
much
I
could
eat
before
I
could
do
a
cartwheel
over
the
crowd.
opening
My
more
I
devoured
half
of
the
souls
of
the
audience
empowered
by
the
soul
of
the
audience
I
wield
slowly
like
a
bad
movie
going
into
the
crowd
I
impacted
upon
the
crowd.
the
Moral
of
the
story
is
if
you
eat
souls
don't
do
that. Okay, next up we're going to need somebody's comic book or graphic novel or something like that. We're doing a game called Every Other Line, and we need something with dialogue in. I don't know what that is.
somebody.
Is that a book? Okay, here we go. We need another one.
Give me a least I can.
Yes, that will work perfectly.
Oh, God. What did you get?
Yeah!
Oh, yes!
My
What
good
is
friend of the 404s, Ryan Silver, and
Florida Souza?
Okay, so guys, so for the audience and the crowd, read out what game or what books you have.
Don't Make This Weird by Summer and Marv.
Well, same guy.
Same guy.
Yeah. And I got, I play to win.
These guys are friends of the group, by the way. This was not a plant whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
But definitely
We
go
could
visit
not have planned that any better.
Go visit them and get their stuff. They are awesome writers and artists. Okay, so what's going to happen here is Byron is our straight man. He can say whatever he wants, but Ryan and Chris are limited in what they say to every other line of dialogue out of these books. Okay? So, for our suggestion, okay, the question is, why can't I sleep at night? The answer is, hands up, why can't I sleep at night? Yeah.
Musicals.
No, sure, why not? The answer and the suggestion is musicals. Every other line, off we go.
These musicals have to stop! It's nothing but Rocky Horror and Evil Dead!
We have to go now.
It's a trap.
Then what are we still doing here? Why are we here with these musicals? I can't sleep!
See? He always sleeps with his butt in the air.
Sorry.
Well, however you sleep is comfortable. I can't sleep because of these musicals. What are we gonna do?
Besides, you know how I store my medicinal erotica.
I wouldn't say no to some tequila.
That might numb
They're
the pain.
M&Ms.
That might numb the pain from the musicals. All right, hold on a second. There we go. Shot. Lemon, salt. Here. Oh God. Okay, that was a bad idea.
Why can't you build a fort like a normal kid?
Cow semen.
You didn't do the dishes last night. You get cow semen. I had the worst roommates ever. They play nothing but musicals, and I can't get any sleep.
Don't make this weird.
You already did.
It's
That's the right term. Yes, that's why you got cow semen for not doing the dishes.
I should have gone into advertising.
What do you think it means?
Don't Dorothy.
It means that I haven't gotten any sleep in 3 days because you two won't stop playing musicals. Stop it!
You heard the rumor that hot lesbians are working here?
Always.
Neither of you are helping my situation. I am getting murderous. Turn off the damn music.
I'm a close friend.
I know, that's why you like the cow semen.
I'm not a monster, Nancy.
Can we go to the pet store?
No, we're not going to the pet store until you get the musicals off your radios.
That's disgusting.
All right, you know what? Cow semen for both of you. Here, go. Finish it. Drink it now.
The texture.
We disavow everything in this show. Moving on is our next game, which is random lines. Where are random lines? There we are. So we're going to get Michaela, Kyle, and Richard up for this one. And you guys are going to just take a handful of these things out of here. These are the random lines that you guys wrote.
Oh no, I got this one.
Okay, you got it. Okay, so as they go through the next improvised scene, whenever they feel like it, they can whip one of these line suggestions out there. We did not censor them. Improv against humanity, right? Okay. And anyways, whenever they reach into the pocket, they read out the line, and they have to justify the use of that line in the scene properly. So, the question is, the card is, my mom freaked out when she looked at my browser history and found blank.com/blank. Okay? So for URL, blank.com, hands up for blank.com. Yeah. EquestriaDaily.com.
He's a brony too!
Okay, EquestriaDaily.com / already got you. Yeah, in the aisle. Yep.
They're that big.
What?
They're that big.
They're that big? Okay. For the record, in improv, we are trained to accept the suggestion no matter what it is. So, guys, the scene is EquestriaDaily.com / they're that big. Have fun!
Mom, Dad, I know you guys found my browsing history, and I just want to come out and let you guys know that yeah, but where are we going to get the rubber pants?